Dr. Hasib. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Welcome. Introduce yourself and say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angelina Simms. I am in the Philadelphia area. I attend Immaculata University studying information systems and cybersecurity. And in my studies, one day on a break, I was looking to learn more about cybersecurity. And that's how I came across Dr. Hipsey's book. And I learned that there's so much more about cybersecurity than the actual security factor. And reaching out to him through LinkedIn helped me learn more about different directions I could take in my career path. So I learned from the book, from Dr. Hipsey's book about cybersecurity, that it can involve education, healthcare, and and I'm using those avenues to help advocate for those with special needs and disabilities because they use technology and I want to be of service to them.
Wow.
And yes, and like Tariq and Dr. Hasib, I'm also a Toastmaster. And recently I had the pleasure of reading Dr. Hipsey's book about personal branding. And as an honor and thank you for your mentorship through Toastmasters, I would like to focus a lot of my questions this evening on your book, your brand
Oh,
book.
wonderful. Yes, this is so wonderful. We have so many common things, and I'm so glad that you reached out and we connected and we had this opportunity to work on so many different fronts. So, it's welcome back. You are a returning guest over here. So, this is your second stint on this show. So, what are we going to talk about today, Angelina?
We are going to talk about bringing out your inner greatness.
Wow. And you are already doing that. This is absolutely wonderful. So let's chat about that.
So, right off the bat, I want to ask you, how has Toastmasters helped you bring out your inner greatness and in the process of writing this new book?
Ah, so you probably saw that I did put a Toastmasters chapter in there. And that was very important because part of my history is that when I was at the nuclear power plant, I joined Toastmasters because that's what everybody said I should be doing. I had no clue what it was, but that's where I learned not only public speaking, but leadership, all the various roles, listening, the art of listening, and then the art of being able to communicate within 5 minutes or 7 minutes or 1 minute and 2 minutes, providing people with valuable information, but also with clarity, getting rid of the ooh, ah, it basically drives me crazy now because I'm trained in that. So every time I watch TV and I hear somebody doing, and I'm like, I don't know. So Toastmasters has been incredibly important for me. And that is part of the reason, if you notice, even when I met you and you expressed this interest of being a leader in this field, one of the things that I encouraged you to do what? Join Toastmasters.
Masters, yes. Yes, that's great. So I want to read a little sample, just a little sample from your book. I don't want to give it all away.
All right.
So in chapter 12, you're talking about one of your mentees, Miss Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And to quote you in the book, you say, just as any normal human being, a mentor will always appreciate non monetary rewards such as thank you notes, posts, celebratory messages, and pleasant surprises. So, when it comes to personal branding and seeing results from your insight and leadership, what growth have you seen in those you've mentored within your field?
Ah, well, I have seen really their blossoming. In some ways, I've also been seeing that in you because the thing is that the inner greatness already exists. I mean, you know that, I know that. What you are showing to us today already existed in you, but did it take? It took some courage, encouragement, and some mentorship to help you bring that out. If you notice, whatever you are doing is pretty unique. And nobody else has those interests, nobody has else is built up of all those things. Because if you notice your whole self, because I talk about in any effort bringing your whole self, right? So every one of my mentors has something, and as a mentees, I mean, have something. So as a mentor, what is my job? My job is to see what is that talent that is already there, And then can I help bring that out? And when that person is scared or not confident enough to bring it out, it is my job to give that confidence. And the confidence can only develop through practice, right? As you notice yourself, your own development through Toastmasters, you've been there about 6 months now, I think.
Yeah, just about.
Look at where you are today compared to when you first started. It was that little bit of hesitation, but then you started doing it, and the practice helped you get better and better and better and better. And then now, once you are confident, you can let yourself go. You can start bringing all your other talents, your acting talents, your ability to be expressive about something. So, as we all know, a lot of communication is nonverbal, right? So, being able to communicate with those nonverbal elements, that is also very important. So, these are all things that matter. And those are the things that I started seeing in every one of my mentees, that as they started to blossom, I started to see that inner greatness and they themselves could see it.
Okay, okay. So now I want to go back a little bit to chapter 8. You're talking about your job interview at University of Maryland. And I
Ah.
thought that you had great response for a job interview question. I had to bookmark that in my Kindle so I could save that for another time in my life. You said that it was great. You mentioned about job interview questions and how you help promote everyone's brand, and everything's like a team sport.
Mhm.
So I always want to know, we're going to change things up a bit. Could you
Mhm.
share about a time when you were in a situation where not everyone was a team player?
Mm. Well, yes, as a matter of fact, that pretty much happened even at, you see, right after the mass layoff, right? As soon as there was a mass layoff, what happened? All the players changed. And as you probably read in my first book, Cybersecurity Leadership, I talk about how teamwork takes time. When you move, if there are 5 members of a team and you move one member, the whole team has to readjust. Well, if you change all 5 members, now you'll have mass chaos, right? Because nobody has any ability to work with anybody, and then nobody knows about teamwork. And then at that point, people had just been laid off, people are coming together, people don't know what they're supposed to do. Are we competing against each other and all that? So, oh yeah, I've seen that many times. And as a matter of fact, what happens is that that bleeds into the whole organization, and the organization suffers big time, the clients suffer big time, and there's a huge financial loss. So yeah, I have seen that many times. Which is why I don't work in those kinds of environments.
I thoroughly appreciate reading 2 of your books now. Well, read one and listen to an audiobook for the first one. I want to
Okay.
know about Dr. Hasib, the author, the writer.
Okay.
So I want to know about your writing process. Like, do you have a special space? Are there certain times of the day that you like to write? Like, what goes on in the mind of Dr. Mansur Hasib when he's writing his distinguished works?
I think that each book is different. So the first book, I would say, literally took more than 20 years because there's a lot of chapters in the first book that got written as early as 1996. Because there's a chapter in that book where I talk about corporate alignment. Because what was happening during that time was that Baltimore Gas and Electric Company and Pepco was about to merge. And we had to bring the two cultures together. And then both companies were actually struggling with how do I bring this culture together? And I was one of those people that likes to study organizations and then help them develop that common culture. So I came up with a paper where I talked about the two different cultures that existed. And one of the things that I noticed that was wrong with both cultures, Pepco's culture was very centralized. But what happened was because of the centralization, it was very efficient, but a lot of support wasn't getting done. A lot of innovation wasn't getting done because too much structure stifles the process. On the other hand, Baltimore Gas and Electric Company was so decentralized that there was no corporate alignment. So I put that thing together that you see, at some point, you cannot have too much centralization. You got to have some corporate alignment. So I came up with the chapter. So what happens with that book was that as I was facing problems and seeing problems, I was writing about them. And then I was writing them as papers and papers. Eventually, I realized, wow, if I put all this together, now it can become a book. So that's kind of what happened. And I think that in 2013, after I finished my doctoral degree, something clicked in my brain also, because I think that after the doctoral degree, your brain does elevate to a different level. That's kind of what I felt, that I was being more circumspect. I was thinking a lot more. And so that is when I put together a lot of the previous work and put that thing into a cohesive thing. And I was also looking at the problems in the industry. And I said, this is the book that's needed, because we have so much technology out there, but nobody's talking about the leadership and governance. And that's where things are failing. Because if you have proper leadership, I mean, this whole business of China attacking us or Russia or whoever, I mean, come on, we've got the brains. If all we need is the right leadership and the desire to do it, and we can do anything we want. So that's what happened with that book. With the second book, it was faster, because what happened was I realized that people need the personal branding. And I started a workshop with that. Started workshop, but then I noticed people right now are getting laid off and all these things. And I said, oh my God, people don't realize that they need to get ownership of their personal brand. They need to have multiple sources of income and things like that. So what I did was I accelerated the production of this book by basically myself recognizing that I was working too hard for too many other organizations. They were making all the money. The people above me were making 2-3 times my salary. In the meantime, I felt like I was being exploited, because I could do their jobs, they couldn't do mine, yet they were making 2-3 times my salary. To me, that didn't make any sense. If I can do somebody's job, that person should not be making 2-3 times my salary and then dictating to me what I should be doing. So then I decided, okay, let me write this book, finish this book. So that's kind of what had happened. I think each book is different. There's another book that is in the works now for 15 years.
Okay.
And so hopefully that'll get done as soon as I'm finished with this one.
Okay. Now, I know you talk a lot in the book about promoting your brand online through social networking, social media to enhance your brand.
Mhm.
And of course, if the audience doesn't know, you and I follow each other on Twitter. And I do recall recently there was a day there was a lot of rain and you were having problems recording your audiobook.
Ah,
So I want to touch on that. You did give some very good tips in the new book about using your personal brand with podcasting and audiobooks and all of that. I just
mhm.
want to know, what's some, other than the rain that day, what are some frustrating things for you when it comes to recording audiobooks?
Ah, okay. This thing, the sound, okay? So I thought I had finished the whole recording. It was done. But then when I started going back, I just, because I'm very finicky about quality control. So I started looking at the audio recording of every chapter, and I noticed that the first 4 chapters sound very different. And I noticed, oh my God, I had used a different microphone and a different computer, and the quality was very different. So I said, I can't do this. So now I am re recording the first 4 chapters again. All right. So that's part of the frustration, that in audio recording, unless you have a very expensive studio and all that, and you have the time to devote to that, it's time consuming to maintain the quality. And I want to maintain the quality. So that was the other frustrating thing. And yes, sometimes I will have a neighbor's dog barking. So that's a frustrating thing. Sometimes, yeah, the rain.
Mhm.
So in audio recording, those are some issues. But technology is still much better today than it was, say, in 2015 when I did the audio recording of cybersecurity leadership. At that time, it was a slow process. It took me 6 months to do that one. I think this one is probably going to take about 2 months total. So that's not bad.
Okay. Okay. Wow, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
So I also noticed on Twitter, not like I'm stalking you on Twitter or anything.
All right. All right.
You're just one of my favorite influencers to
Oh
follow.
no.
I see that you're very involved with the writing community and you offer your advice to them. Uh, what would you say? I don't know, maybe someone already asked you, like, how do you handle criticism about your writing?
Ah, well, the best way, and I think I've addressed that in the current book. Some criticism is constructive, and if it's something that you can fix, you should. And I have. So when I did the first edition of Cybersecurity Leadership, I did get some criticism, and some was constructive. If it is destructive criticism, in other words, if it's a lot of opinions, like I hated the book, but they don't say why they hated the book, or they're saying they wanted to read about technology in this cybersecurity leadership book when I clearly say this book is not about technology, right? So there are some things you can't do anything about, but all the productive things, like one critique was that the first edition had a lot of typos and things like that. So I cleaned all that up. Somebody wanted an index, so I provided an index. So those things I think help a lot, and that did help me improve the quality. But the key is for an author never to engage with either positive or negative too much. Because if you notice that even if somebody puts a positive review, I don't like to go and put a comment, because if I do, then I would have to put a comment on every review because I want to treat everybody the same, right? So, and if I do it only on positive reviews but not on negative reviews, it'll look weird. The wisdom is that you don't engage on any of them. Let the community decide, because even the best authors won't have 100% of the people like their work. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I
All
did
right.
find your indexes very helpful, and I even appreciated the links within the chapters, which took me so long to finish the book because I was clicking on almost like every link and going back and watching every reference to every video. It took a lot
Okay.
longer than I thought it was gonna take because I had to like see every single reference.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, so what else? Do you have any other questions, or are we?
What do you like to read, or what audiobooks do you like to listen to?
I like to. I'm mostly into audiobooks. So mostly historical fictions. So one of my all-time favorites was Philippa Gregory and all those historical fictions from the Henry VIII era and all that. Because they make it so vivid. So I'm very much into the person acting out also. So I don't like one reader necessarily. If there are two or three readers and people are kind of play acting the roles and really making it come to life, I like those kinds of books rather than pure just reading or pure narration.
Okay. Well, I guess my last question for you would be, what would you like to share with anyone who may be new to your audience discovering your work for the very first time?
If they're discovering my work for the very first time, I would say go through it and then come on my show and tell me what you thought. This is the forum I have created for anyone to come and interact with me for 15 minutes or so and just chat, because I love to know how it might be helping them, or how they're using it and all that. So I appreciate the fact that you've been using the work and benefiting from it. And I absolutely love the fact that you came and chatted with me about it.
Yes, thank you. I mean, you cover so much in your books. Like you definitely have to go through it more than once because like you have to like my your head's about to explode with all the knowledge that you share. And it's just really wonderful. And I appreciate all that you do for everyone and all the mentees and your students.
Well, thank you very much, Angelina. Great to see you.